1320 WILS, 1320 WILS.com. We weekly do the segment here, Legalese, with Lise Wheel, Fox News legal analyst and best-selling author. Lise a little under the weather this week, so Tim Hoch, Fox News legal analyst, joining us now here. He is he's not going to have the little giggle that Lise has on some of the stories that might be a little funnier, the less dry legal stories. But, Tim, we appreciate you joining us this morning to talk the law.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate very much. Well, okay, the first one here involves a rather tragic act, but a head scratcher. Topic number one has to do with a person here, defense attorney, who claims one of a woman's multiple personalities. This takes us back to like the story of Sybil. Killed a man in northeast Kansas as an act of love towards another one of the multiple personalities. All right, so my brain's getting on fire over this. How does this work? How does this work legally, and how many people are actually on trial, and how many get exonerated from the same witness stand?
That's a great question. This is sort of a subset of the insanity defense. So it's called the dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder. The insanity defense is actually raised in less than 1% of all felony cases. And it's successful in far, far less than that. It's really raised very little and is even less successful.
But Tim, it's raised in approximately 55% of television legal shows, so it's and movies. So it's very popular out there with that. So you're telling us that this is probably is this back in the day? My great grandfather would have said this is the last refuge of a beaten cur. Is this a lawyer who's run out of gas and he's going to just throw it up there against the wall and see if it sticks?
Well, based on the history of the case, I don't think there's really any question as to whether this woman is insane. The problem is whether she's insane as it's defined in the criminal code. And the criminal code says that you have to be able to show that you could not form the difference or did not know the difference between right and wrong. And that's a very, very tough standard to meet. So I agree that this is an uphill climb for the defense in this case.
And of course, it's the person here that we're talking about, the various personalities that may make up this person individually have no legal standing, at least to the best of our knowledge, right?
Exactly. And so you've got the whole issue of what's in control here. They call it the alter in control defense. And so, we all have multiple personalities to a certain extent, right?
Sure.
I mean, I said Monday morning Tim is a little different than Friday afternoon Tim. Okay, so and they're called moods, right? So
right,
then you
sure.
have to determine and peel back the layers a little bit and say, well, wait a minute, who's in control here? And that's hard. That's hard to prove.
It is. It sounds like it would be difficult to prove, and again for the judge and jury there in that state, something very interesting indeed. All right, the Supreme Court here this week taking up an issue involving the Confederate battle flag, not just flying the flag, but bearing the Confederate battle flag on your license plate. And this has to do with the state of Texas and free speech, and it seems now to some who would say, well, it's just a chance to express myself. But we do have certain restrictions on speech in this country that might come into play here, especially with the high court entertaining arguments on this. So let's thumbnail this one a bit.
Okay. This involves a program in Texas that was, of course, sponsored by the Department of Motor Vehicles that allowed folks to petition the Department of Motor Vehicles for certain different designs and whatnot to support their cause. So you might have University of Texas Longhorns, TCU Horned Frogs. There's even a pro-life license plate. The license plate, and this is an important distinction, is owned by the state of Texas. So you have to petition them. And this group petitioned the state of Texas for a Confederate flag. And the state of Texas, the 8-member board said, of the Department of Motor Vehicles said, no, we will not allow that because that's hate speech. And they said, well, yeah, but it's protected under the First Amendment. So that was the argument that was heard yesterday in the Supreme Court. And the way that the battle lines were drawn in that particular case are very, very interesting. On the one hand, you have the folks who say First Amendment is sacrosanct and there's not a damn thing you can do about it, right? Then the other folks say, well, wait a minute, this is state-sponsored hate speech. You can't have the state sponsor hate speech. So where do you draw the line? That's the question.
And that's a huge question here, because it doesn't take you too far. And I'm not saying that those, I've had my own family. I come from a mixed marriage, and my ancestors fought for the Union. My wife's fought for the Confederacy. Okay, so that's what I call a mixed marriage. When you're talking history with your children, but then what would stop somebody from putting a swastika on the plate? Again,
Right.
a plate that belongs to the state, licensed by the state, something you got to hand back if they ask for it, but it carries the swastika. It's not cut and dry here, is it?
No, it's not at all. And I think that's what's going to be sort of the thing that splits these justices along sort of party lines. Like you mentioned, and that's a perfect analogy. What if do we have to allow the swastika? What if someone came in and said, "Yeah, I would like to have jihad on my plate"?
Yeah.
Well, now wait a minute.
Something
Okay.
involving ISIS, which I'm sure is forbidden. Something involving four-letter words, which, to the best of my knowledge, all states avoid that right now. But that would open that argument and that can of worms up immediately.
Exactly.
Wow. Tim Oakes, Fox News legal analyst here. He is not legalese here today, but he's been taking us through the twists and turns of some of the more interesting and up for debate legal cases here. We appreciate you joining us this morning, Tim.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Good talking the law as a layman here with somebody like Tim.